Night City. People say that this is the worst place to live, and they're right, but it is my home. As for its inhabitants, some of them can be downright terrible, but that doesn't give me the right to be their judge, jury, and executioner. Why?
Because I'm Batman.
Hello Chumbas, I am Halcylan, and today I'd like to present to you my favorite build for Cyberpunk 2077. The Vigilante. As you can expect from a build inspired by the Dark Knight, our goal is to progress through the game without killing a single person. But if mercy isn't your style, I won't hold it against you if you want to use my knowledge to become the most badass killer in Night City. Before we start, a short but important disclaimer. Today's video was originally meant to contain explanations for many core concepts of Cyberpunk, but due to time constraints, that info shall be compiled into a separate beginner's guide, which I'm sure by now nobody needs, but I will publish nonetheless, as soon as I finish this one. It's a bit like that whole Star Wars situation where episode 6 came 20 years before episode 1. Hopefully, it won't take me that long in between episodes. Now, here's a brief overview of the Vigilante. This playstyle has everything you need: stealth, survivability, melee damage, and a good way of earning money. And I was not expecting it to be so much fun. I mean, there's so many beautiful ways to maim and murder your opposition that it's almost a shame to merely punch their lights out. If you do so, however, their medical bill will make them wish they were dead. So where do we start? From the beginning, I reckon. Character creation. For maximum immersion, I recommend the Corpo life path, but ultimately, that is your choice to make. As for your attributes, they all start at level 3 and you're given 7 extra points to develop whichever of those you want. Since our template is a smart guy who punches everything, we'll obviously put all of our points into body and intelligence, and drop the last one in tech. And as you can expect, the skills we'll focus on are street brawling, athletics, breach protocol, and quick hacking. Once you're at a very high level, you may feel free to incorporate some techie skills into your build, but I haven't gotten that far due to the aforementioned time constraints. I wanted this guide finished before the end of the year, you see. Anyway, as you use the NCPD scanner to fight crime and make money, your level will inevitably increase, and each time that happens, you will gain 1 attribute point. The order you spend them in is up to you, but by level 10, you should have 12 points into body and 10 in intelligence. Past level 10, you should focus on developing strength to its maximum, because brawling is how the Vigilante solves his problems, while hacking is nothing more than a support skill and a tool for earning Eurodollars. But if you don't want to leave your hacking skills undeveloped, I recommend you to assign 1 point to intelligence for every 3 points you put into strength. In case you don't know how skills, attributes, and perks work, I'll leave that for another video, but I'll still give it a short version right now. As an example, if you want the Frenzy perk and the Street Brawler skill, you only need to develop your body attribute to level 15. The skill itself can be at 0, but each time you gain a level in that skill, you get some bonuses. Sometimes, those bonuses include perk points that you're free to spend into other skill trees. But you can never develop your skills past their attribute limits, meaning, if your body is level 15, your brawling skill is capped at 15 no matter how much you keep punching stuff. I feel like I gave you the long version, but whatever. I'll repeat it in the next video if I have to. So to recap, when you're level 10, make sure you have 12 body and 10 intelligence. As you level up past 10, max out the former, but don't ignore the latter if you want to unlock some extra hacking skills. Speaking of perks, here's the ones I use. The most important of the bunch is Rush, which grants you a bit of health regen every time you punch somebody. This is your lifeline. Without it, you cannot survive in melee combat. Second most important is Dazed, which gives you a 30% chance of stunning whoever's on the other end of your fists, allowing you to keep them locked in combat until they're KO'd, and this perk synergizes really well with Opportune Strike, which increases the damage you deal against the stunned target. You can further maximize your survivability by investing 3 more perk points into Unshakable, and if you're looking for more damage, Flurry plus Steel and Chrome are the perks you need. By the way, most of these perks belong to the Street Brawler skill line, except for the last one, which is found in the Athletics tree. While we're looking at athletics, Invincible is the only other perk you need, but if you want to get even tankier, you can feel free to invest into Regeneration, Wolverine, and Dog of War, although my brawling skills offer enough health regen as it is. Alternatively, if you'd rather punch hard instead of fast, you can switch most of the Brawler perks I recommended with a combo of Crushing Blows, Thrash and Frenzy, replacing the heal on hit effects with passive regen from the Athletics tree. With this alternative combo, you sneak behind somebody, knock him out with a Sucker Punch, and with a Frenzy bonus you walk up to the next fucker and give him a heavy strike. This is slower, more tactical and deals a lot more damage, but I personally prefer speed. By the way, I also tested a few Annihilation perks to see if they synergize with Brawling, and from my observations, they don't. I may be wrong, but consider this a warning before you waste your perk points. Moving on to Intelligence perks, Advanced Data Mine is the most important for making money, and if you don't mind sacrificing a bit of combat proficiency, you should pick that perk at your earliest convenience. If you have the patience for hacking and invest into a decent cyber deck, data mining can make you a ton of money, and not just money but quick hack components as well, which as you can expect, can be sold for even more money because no way you need 2,000 of those. And if you get really good at executing the breach protocol, the Datamine Mastermind perk will maximize the amount of components you get for hacking access points. I'll tell you a few things about hacking a bit later, but for now, we're still discussing perks, so let's stay on subject. If you want to dive even deeper into net running, Total Recall is an absolute must in order to reduce the amount of RAM needed to install malware onto your opponents. I also dump 1 point into the Mass Vulnerability Demon, which lowers the amount of armor of my enemies, making them easier to deal with. As for the quick hacking tree, you should invest at least 1 point into Biosynergy because otherwise, your RAM doesn't recover while you're in combat and that limits your ability to crowd control your opponents. Once you take the perks I recommend, you can feel free to do your own thing, or copy and paste the other perks I've shown on screen thus far. Oh, I also recommend the Mechanic perk in your tech skills. You'll be scrapping a ton of weapons as you play the game, might as well make the most of it. And if you ever feel like you've invested too many points into money-making perks and you're a multi-millionaire, you have the option of purchasing a Tabula Erasa from any Ripper Dog for a small sum of 100,000 eddies and use it to reassign your perk points into combat-related abilities. On top of skills and perks, Cyberware adds another layer to character progression, and we will talk about it in great detail once we can afford it. No, literally, you can't afford Cyberware right now, it's expensive as hell and you're gonna have to use your rookie skills to get some cash. But as the saying goes, you have to spend money to make money, and might I remind you, this is a non-lethal build, and since you can't use guns just yet, you're gonna have to visit Wilson or Coach Fred to buy an electric baton from one of them. If that weapon is not in their stock, purchase any bludgeon available. A wrench, a baseball bat, a Sir John Fallostiff, anything that can beat a gonk into submission. And yeah, I know we're supposed to use fists, but early on, your flabby meat sticks won't do much damage, so you need something a bit more effective. On the positive end, unlike every other weapon, fists scale to your level and don't need any upgrades, so you get to keep most of your spare parts and use them to craft other things. An added bonus of unarmed combat is that it frees up a weapon slot for a gun, instead of forcing you to use another melee weapon. But guns come later, once we have the appropriate upgrades. So, you purchased an electric baton, what next? Well, use your scanner to find crimes in progress and go there, do what Batman does. Fight crime, break bones and make some money. But you can't do that with blunt force just yet, you're simply not up to the task, so the only way to avoid bloodshed early on is stealth. Perform a Slav squat to make yourself less visible. Activate your Kiroshis to scan devices in the area, hack them to cause a distraction and then put the criminals into a deep sleep one by one. But take care not to throw their bodies into a dumpster before you've looted them, or else you're wasting your time. You need their loot. And if you get detected, run to cover, pull out your trusty beat stick and wait for the enemies to run to you, and as they do, smack them till they drop. Of course, things aren't always this easy. Sometimes, you need to use quick hacks to either jam a gonk's weapon, or glitch his eyeballs, or even give him a quick shock that makes him flinch for just 1 second, which buys you enough time to close in and knock his teeth out. I will have an in-depth demonstration for using this melee and hacking combination against an impossible group of enemies, but for now, this is how you'll play the game, slow and steady, at least in the early stages. But Dr. Vic installed you a Kiroshi Mark I, which has exactly 1 upgrade port. Once you find the target analysis mod, install it into your optical scanner, and now all of your weapons are non-lethal, and this gives you a whole lot more options which are valuable in the early game. With this mod installed, you can shoot your enemies with any weapon without endangering their lives, so we can expand our arsenal with a selection of ranged weapons to suit our every need. The combination I like most is a Tsunami Nekomata Tech Sniper Rifle, which can penetrate cover and hit enemies that may be too far from our reach, a DB Satara tech shotgun which has the same abilities as the Nekomata, albeit at a shorter range, and can also knock down enemies. And finally, I recommend a good Lexington auto pistol that can accommodate the Weaken mod. Tag an enemy with this modded weapon and he'll deal 20% less damage, which is rather useful in a boss fight. Alternatively, if you don't find the target analysis mod, you can purchase the packs from Wilson and install it into one weapon to render it non-lethal, but not all weapons can accommodate that mod. I know using firearms isn't very bat-like, but early on we need them, and it also makes sense for us to use them to develop their related skills and gain some sweet-ass bonuses, including perks that can be assigned to hacking or brawling. Since your body attribute is so high, it's a shame to leave the Annihilation skill unleveled. Using a riot shotgun rectifies that problem. If you don't have the target analysis mod and you're forced to use firearms, just make sure you don't kill your opponents. If you think they can tank a couple of shotgun shells to their chest and still have some health left, knock them out with a whack or a quick hack. And don't forget to use flashbang or EMP grenades against huge groups of enemies, because those are non-lethal as well. Okay, so we've talked about attributes, skills, perks, and basic gear, and we briefly discussed how to use all of these in the early game in order to maximize your survival. If you want to see them in action, check out the short demonstration video I've linked in the description. To put it simply, when you're still a fresh spawn, your job is to fight gangoons and rob them of their spoils, and as you do, you'll gain experience, street cred, and money, which can be used to improve your skills, unlock new gear, and purchase some much needed upgrades. And by upgrades I of course mean cybernetics, so let's finally talk about those. Now, if I were to discuss each and every piece of cyberware I have installed, we'd be here for at least a few hours, so instead of giving you details, I'll only mention a few important augmentations and where to find them. First, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, gorilla. Its arms, more specifically. Any Ripper Dog has a pair of these in stock once your street cred reaches level 20, but if you want a legendary set, be ready to spend 100,000 eddies at the city center Ripper Dog clinic. I personally settled for the cheapest ones from Dr. Vic. As for leg replacements, the reinforced tendons are the best in my opinion. Fortified ankles may allow you to leap much higher, but they're not as reliable as the double jump. But the most important piece of cyberware is your OS. Operating systems come in 3 types. Berserk, which increases your melee damage and resilience and is pretty good for a brawler. Sandevistan Reflex Booster, which slows down time without impeding your movement or attack speed, which is also great for a brawler. Or a Cyber Deck, which is necessary for net running, but isn't that good for a brawler. However, since hacking is one of the most important skills of the Vigilante, you'd best invest into a good Cyber Deck ASAP. Dr. Chrome, found inside of Kabuki Market, sells some of these, and you may be tempted to purchase a Raven Microcyber Mark IV. But I doubt you have the eddies and the street cred necessary to purchase this one outright, so I advise you to invest 15,000 in a cheaper one. The first one I bought was the Biotech Sigma Mark II, but I recommend the other option, that has a higher buffer size which is more useful for the breach protocol. The Cyber Deck will also need to be loaded with quick hacks. Ping, Reboot Optics, Short Circuit and Glitch Weapon are the most useful demons for this build, at least early on. Going back to Dr. Chrome, he also sells a legendary subdermal armor implant, which I advise you to purchase as soon as you have the funds for it, and if you meet the requirements. Some additional immunity implants are also available for purchase, but don't make them a priority. In fact, I heard rumors about a hollow skin camouflage implant that may render you almost invisible, so prepare to free up a slot when you find something like that. A bit further to the north you can find Buck's Clinic, which may install another important piece of cyberware. A rare quality biomonitor which instantly replenishes your health when you take too much damage. If you don't yet meet the requirements for that one, don't rush into buying the basic version, it's not worth it. And in regards to cheap implants, Dr. Buck also sells a synaptic signal optimizer which you shouldn't waste your money on, because in the vicinity of this junk shop in Kabuki, there's a hidden Ripper Dog clinic. Instant implants. That's where I purchased a better SSO for my skeleton, which offers a 40% health bonus and happens to be another important upgrade for the Vigilante. I found better SSOs at other Ripper Dogs, but they were too expensive and I didn't even meet the body requirements to install them, which is why I recommend the rare one. It's good enough for now. Ironically, I nearly forgot to mention that you need some memory upgrades to increase your amount of RAM and RAM recovery. You can purchase some of those from Cassius Ryder, found in the Watson district, north side, but I wasn't personally amazed by his cyberware selection. Last but not least, there's your optical scanner. If you can afford to pay back your debt to Victor, he has a Kiroshi Mark III for sale, but it's not an absolute requirement for your build. What is an absolute requirement is to find, craft, or purchase the target analysis mod and install it into your eyeballs. As I've already mentioned, this mod will render all of your weapons non-lethal, and since the whole idea of our build is to avoid killing, you can probably see how important it is to install this one. As you may have noticed, I mostly mentioned Ripper Doc clinics found in the 1st district, because that's where I spent most of my time. You're not allowed to leave this district during the prologue, and I've done my best to avoid the main quest. Oh, and one more thing, in case this video was not what you were expecting. Some build guides are meant for the end game and will tell you how to equip legendaries into your every orifice. But the point of today's character build is to avoid bloodshed right from the start of the game. As such, I focused on low-level, affordable gear. Now that we've discussed the most important elements of this build, let's see it in action. I recorded many fights to show the Vigilante's capabilities, but the best example is a fight against some 6th Street gangers that were several levels higher than me. I must have flatlined at least a dozen times trying to beat these guys, but with the right use of consumables, quick hacks, and combat skills, I was able to eventually bring them to justice. Before the fight even started, I ate food and drank water to get a few bonuses, and then I used a health booster, a stamina booster, and a ram jolt to fortify my stats. I normally don't need to use consumables, since they can get expensive, but seeing how my opponents are twice my level, I needed any edge I could get. I then initialized the breach protocol onto the closest enemy, and to be honest, it took me a while until I found the sequence that could install both malware programs. One to lower the RAM cost of quick hacks, and the other to lower everyone's resistances by 30%. After that, I used ping to reveal all of my enemies, and then I called this guy to me via the Whisper Demon. And I snuck around these vents to remain hidden, but my synaptic accelerator implant warned me that their sniper can spot me, so I retraced my steps a little to hide from him. As soon as it was safe to advance, I blinded the sniper for a few seconds, and then circled around the vents and behind the gonk I called to me. I could have grabbed him and tried to choke him out, but because of our level difference, he could have instantly broken my hold and I would have lost my advantage, so I resigned to performing a heavy strike from stealth, which, to be fair, dealt a lot less damage than I was expecting. But I kept pummeling, and because of my skills and perks, each consecutive hit would deal more damage than the ones before. After 5 hits, my gorilla arms became supercharged, and I could unleash a devastating strike by performing a heavy, which knocked this guy on his ass. Stun-locked and unable to do anything else, he ate a few more fists and got knocked out, and then I had to deal with the remaining 5 enemies who were closing in. One had a bludgeon, the rest were fitted with firearms, so I blinded the melee, and took the time to jump the guns of everyone else, and then I jumped down to get into cover while the malware was being uploaded. As soon as the weapons malfunctioned, I double jumped back into the fray and started punching the shotgun chick, but before long, I was forced to retreat once more and heal up. Before returning to the fight, I blinded the bludgeoner once more, and returned to pummel the shotgun user, but by the time I reached the vents, I took a lot of damage from the sniper. In this split second, I had a choice. Retreat and heal up, or finish the one with the shotgun before she heals as well. I chose the latter and it paid off. Now I had some breathing room to heal and jump back in. Because melee girl isn't really a threat, I ignored her and rushed towards a guy with a pistol, but not before blinding the sniper. Once I reached my new target, I charged up my gorillas with some light attacks and discharged them with a heavy, and my enemy got stunned and knocked down, helpless to resist my unrelenting blows. But after I was done pummeling this one and I rushed back to cover, I noticed the sniper glitched out and he simply stopped doing anything useful. Is this why I survived? I don't know, but if he didn't glitch, I was going to keep him under control with my quick hacks, so the result would have been the same. Besides him, I only had 2 more enemies left. A guy with an SMG and a bludgeon lady who was next on my naughty list. I rebooted her optics, just in case, and then I started pummeling. She blocked some of my strikes and bought herself time to perform just 1 attack against me, which I quickly parried, dealing heavy damage with my riposte. She took a beating like a champ and even tried blocking, but every time she attempted to defend herself, I broke her guard with a heavy, and after a lot of hits, she got KO'd as well. Only the sniper and the SMG left, so I prioritized the one who was going to fight back. As soon as I got in his face, I activated the weapon glitch demon and started punching him, and just like his predecessors, he got stun-locked and pummeled into oblivion. He did briefly get up, but he was too busy unjamming his weapon in order to fight back, so in the end, he too was helpless to resist my fists. As for the sniper, his software was malfunctioning, so I simply put him out of his misery. No, I didn't kill him, I just put him into a coma. As soon as the fight was over, I jacked into an access point that I've noticed before the fight even began. This is your big moneymaker if you have the patience for hacking. You can find these access points by checking the minimap, or by activating your scanner, or by getting the perk named Extended Network Interface to highlight them when you get close. You can make a lot of money if you unlock the related hacking perks and breach every access point you come across, especially if you manage to upload all 3 data mine demons. But your shitty Militech Paraline can't cut it, which is why you need to upgrade your cyber deck to a model that has a higher buffer size. From this access point alone I gained 1900 eddies, and on top of the cash I also obtained a lot of quick hack components, which can add up to a nice amount of money if you choose to sell them. If you want to make bank from hacking and you've got the patience, invest into all related data mine perks and enjoy the riches. Now, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to hacking, but this video is long enough as it is. God damn, we're already past the 20-minute mark. Imagine how much longer it would have been if I explained everything in detail as I was initially planning to. But yeah, there's still a lot to say about many elements of this build. Survival, hacking, making money, melee combat. So much to talk about, so little time. I haven't even discussed armor and clothing, so I'll leave you with this. If you don't care about your looks, wear whatever has the highest stats. But if you want to stay true to the Vigilante build, neo-militarism is the style you want. For the better part of my playthrough I was dressed like a regular office worker, but now I look more like corpo security. Ideally, the Vigilante would be equipped with whatever set of armor these Arasaka soldiers are wearing, but I have a feeling it will take a while to find it. Oh, and before someone comes into my comment section to say, "Why bother hacking? You can buy cans of soda, scrap them into weapon components and sell them for a profit." I am aware of the exploit, and that's not even the best one there is. There's other exploits that can make you millions in 5 minutes. But I don't play Cyberpunk to pretend I'm a scrap bottle collector, and I avoid exploits when I play the game normally, which is why I recommend net running as the best way to legitimately earn money in this game. It's more lore friendly, you see. Before we conclude today's tutorial, I have one final thing to add. The Vigilante build is not the only way to play non-lethal. Hell, I didn't even like the idea of hacking before I rolled this build. At the start, I simply played like this because I wanted to experiment with a Batman playstyle, but after seeing how profitable hacking is, I'm afraid I won't be able to play any other way. But if patience is a virtue you do not possess and you don't want to bother with net running, all you gotta do to play non-lethal is acquire the target analysis mod for your Kiroshis and use whichever playstyle you want. But you don't have to play non-lethal if that's not something you want. Right now I enjoy playing as a knockoff of the Caped Crusader, but initially, the sole reason I made this build is the same as the reason I focused on trading in Bannerlord. Like a Polish man in the UK, I must do the jobs nobody else wants to do if this channel is to get any views. So feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment, show this video to your grandma and graffiti my channel's name all over your town if you want to help out. Or don't, I don't care. Anyway, thank you for watching and I hope to see you all in my next video. Goodbye.